Today, Brazil, in our hemisphere, largest country in the Western Hemisphere south of us, cut a trade deal with China. They're going to, from now on, do trade in their own currencies, get right around the dollar. They're creating a secondary economy in the world, totally independent of the United States. We won't have to talk about sanctions in 5 years because there'll be so many countries transacting in currencies other than the dollar that we won't have the ability to sanction them.
Shut your bitch ass up!
Hey, truth seekers. Ever wonder why your wallet feels lighter, but the news keeps droning on about the mighty US dollar? Well, buckle up, because we're diving into a story bigger than any superhero movie, the potential dethroning of the US dollar, and the quiet revolution brewing in the East. For decades, the dollar has been the undisputed king of global finance, but whispers of its demise are growing louder. Is it just noise? Or are we witnessing the twilight of an empire? Let's find out.
The dollar is a dangerous currency, let's put it this way. It's been weaponized by the United States. So the United States is the main enemy of the dollar. It has weakened trust in the dollar. So many countries are now seeking for alternatives. And it is expected that the BRICS jointly can provide such an alternative. Because payments in national currencies, that's fine. But there's a limit to that. You can't go beyond that limit if you don't have a new reserve currency as an alternative to the US dollar. This weaponization of the US financial system of the dollar has backfired, has weakened the dollar, and has weakened trust in the Western financial system. Now, if you look at the United States financial situation, it's not brilliant. It has large debt, no trend to reduce the debt as a proportion of the GDP of the United States. It's increasing and will continue to increase. So even financially speaking, even fiscally speaking, the trust in the dollar is weakening. But the main reason, again, is the weaponization of the currency. The use of the currency as a military, as a quasi-military instrument to press to undermine countries that are seen as hostile by the West.
For nearly a century, the US dollar has reigned supreme as the world's primary reserve currency. This isn't just about pretty greenbacks. It grants the US immense power, allowing it to borrow cheaply, influence global trade, and, let's be honest, throw its weight around with sanctions. But even kings can get complacent. The dollar's share of global reserves has slipped from over 70% in 2000 to just under 60% today. Is this a minor dip or a sign of things to come? JP Morgan suggests that this decline, while not entirely out of the norm compared to the early 1990s, is a clear indicator of de-dollarization unfolding in central bank FX reserves.
It adds significantly to the geopolitical weight and the economic weight of the BRICS. And what all the emphasis was on economically was to get out of the hold of the U.S., which has politicized, unfortunately, the international financial system. That's the big issue in practical terms. The U.S. just started confiscating reserves of countries that it didn't like. And these countries are saying we need a different way to trade, to make settlements, and not to be under the control or dominance of a U.S. dollar banking system that is politicized, frankly, at this point.
Enter BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This isn't just a catchy acronym. It's a formidable economic alliance that's been quietly building its own financial infrastructure. And they're not shy about their ambitions. The recent expansion of BRICS, with more than 30 countries seeking membership or partner status, signals a growing desire for an alternative to the Western-dominated financial system.
Also, that the Chinese have begun thinking about how long can they rely on the US dollar as the global reserve currency. Because traditionally, the reserve currency is always the reserve currency of the world's number one economic power. Now, China is not yet in nominal terms the number one economic power. But within 5 years, 10 years, depending on your guesswork on what the rates of growth will be, China will become the world's number one economic power. let's say within 10 years. And then in that world, if you have a world in which China is the number one world economic power and the US dollar remains the global reserve currency, that will be a major global contradiction. So it's actually better for us now to find a solution to that global contradiction before it becomes a big problem, because this will definitely be a big problem 10 years from now.
At the heart of the BRICS financial agenda is the New Development Bank, often dubbed as the BRICS Bank. Established in 2015, the NDB was conceived as a multilateral development bank to finance infrastructure and sustainable development projects in emerging economies. But here's where it gets interesting. Unlike the IMF and the World Bank, which often come with strings attached, read neoliberal reforms, the NDB prioritizes flexibility and local currency lending. In fact, the NDB aims to lend 30% of its loans in local currencies by 2026. Why does this matter? Because it directly challenges dollar hegemony, shielding member states from the whims of American monetary policy and exchange rate volatility. As the Russian finance minister boldly stated, the NDB can become BRICS' cross-border settlement hub, implying a direct sanction-proof SWIFT alternative. And it's not just talk. The NDB is set to announce a new guarantee fund, modeled after the World Bank's MIGA, to lower financing costs and boost investment in member nations. This initiative, expected to mobilize $5 to $10 in private capital for every dollar in guarantees, is a clear message. BRICS is alive, working on solutions, strengthening the NDB, and responding to today's global needs.
As for BRICS, where Russia took over the presidency this year, the BRICS countries are, by and large, developing very rapidly. Look, if memory serves me right, back in 1992, the share of the G7 countries in the world economy amounted to 47%, whereas in 2022 it was down to, I think, a little over 30%. The BRICS countries accounted for only 16% in 1992, but now their share is greater than that of the G7. It has nothing to do with the events in Ukraine. This is due to the trends of global development and world economy, as I mentioned just now. And this is inevitable. This will keep happening. It is like the rise of the sun.
For years, SWIFT has been the backbone of international finance, a digital messaging network connecting over 11,000 institutions in 200 plus countries. But its hidden limitations are becoming glaringly obvious. Transaction delays, exorbitant hidden fees, FX markups can make a £500,000 transfer cost over £5,000, 150 times more than advertised, and security vulnerabilities. Remember the 2016 Bangladesh bank heist, right? So these are pushing countries to seek alternatives. But the biggest chink in SWIFT's armor, its weaponization. The US has repeatedly used SWIFT as a tool for diplomatic pressure and sanctions, cutting off countries like Iran and Russia. This has understandably spooked nations outside Western influence, prompting them to seek payment systems free from political interference. This is where BRICSPay, CIPS, China's cross-border interbank payment system, and SPFS, Russia's system for transfer of financial messages, come into play. While CIPS still leverages SWIFT for messaging, it offers clearing and settlement services, making RMB transactions faster and more cost-effective. SPFS, on the other hand, is Russia's direct SWIFT equivalent, ensuring secure communication between banks. BRICSPay, a planned, independent, and decentralized payment messaging mechanism, aims to allow BRICS nations to trade with each other in their own currencies.
This is a story about how the world's most powerful, richest country is slowly losing its influence.
And it's evident here. we can see across Brazil, thousands of Ford cars almost disappeared.
Meanwhile, China's BYD is becoming increasingly common. It's evidence of the growing connection between Brazil and China, the B and the C of the BRICS Plus coalition. This is a group that hopes to rival the US-led G7.
Over time, more countries started expressing interest in joining BRICS. So now there are 10 countries.
10 countries equals economic power. Look at how the original BRICS have grown compared to the G7 in terms of global GDP since 2009. It surpassed the G7 in 2019. Now add in the expanded lineup, and its share is nearly 40%.
The trajectory is clear. BRICS countries are growing faster.
So what does all this mean for the future of the US dollar? While it's unlikely to be dethroned overnight, the trends are clear. De-dollarization is most visible in commodity markets, where a growing proportion of energy is being priced in non-dollar contracts. Countries like India, China, and Turkey are already using or seeking alternatives to the dollar for oil payments, and Saudi Arabia is even considering yuan-denominated futures. This reduces the need for precautionary USD reserves, freeing up capital for domestic projects. The rise of BRICS and the NDB, coupled with the development of alternative payment systems, points towards a multipolar financial world. It's a world where nations have more choices, where financial sovereignty is increasingly valued, and where the dollar's grip, while still strong, is undeniably loosening. The empire isn't crumbling, per se, but it's certainly facing some serious competition. And that, my friends, is a story worth watching. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another upload. Want even more perks? Consider joining my membership for exclusive emotes, badges, and extra content. Your support means the world. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.